What is going on? Welcome into the VinesPomcast. My name is Nick Kirby. We are so excited to have you with us tonight. Back in action after a one show hiatus. It's the Reverend Will Matthews. What's going on, Will?
Hey guys, how's everybody doing tonight?
Living the dream, man. Hey, Liberty basketball on the up and up. So, I'm doing well. Uh, we're so excited to have Jon Mason with us tonight, the founder, the king of A Sea of Red. Jon, what's up, man?
What's up, guys? And happy to be on the show with you guys and enjoy listening to you and looking forward to it tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. We finally got some YouTube chat, so we'll display some of that. If you guys have any questions, hop on YouTube. Link should be on my Twitter page, as you see on the screen here. Ask us some questions. We'll do our best to answer them. Got a lot, man. This is awesome. This is insane. So we're gonna jump right in. I know everyone's gonna want to talk about yesterday, and understandably. But as we always do here on VinesPom, we like to go through all the games. There's been 3 games since we last did a show. I had Steven Gonzalez on, and it was really, really cool episode with him. If you missed that, go back and check that out for sure. But let's talk about the Stetson win. The first game to open conference play. Liberty whips up on Stetson, a team that has kind of been Liberty's kryptonite in some ways. As you see on the notes there, Liberty 1.20 points per possession. It's one of the most efficient games of the year for Liberty. And against Stetson, it's really impressive because if you remember, Stetson was the team that held Liberty to 43 points a couple of years ago in one of those just awful games I never want to ever speak of again. Will, how did this feel for you getting this big win to start the year off against Stetson in conference play?
Started off a little shoddy, right? Stetson got off to a big lead, 10-point lead just within the first few minutes of the game, and you're kind of thinking back to that game that you just referenced, where Stetson just kind of got us at the right time. But yeah, I mean, Darius had an off game, I guess. He only scored 16 points. So
what a bum. Yeah, it definitely right off the bat. I'm glad you said that, Will. It was like, oh no, here we go again, and then Liberty took hold and they never let back. I mean, they kept at Stetson the whole game. Honestly, Stetson went on, I think, a little run there towards the end to make it within 16. I mean, it was just a dominating performance. I felt like Kyle Rode really had a breakout game. Really kind of as that like point forward, 7 assists in this game, which is just insane for a guy that's not a point guard. Shiloh Robinson really established himself to start ASUN play. Jon, what did you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of hit it. The biggest storyline was Liberty's struggles in playing at Stetson the past 3 years. And they were able to get over that hump and played well. That was Shiloh Robinson's career high at the time. He, one-upped himself the next night out. But with that 16 points, he's really become, I'm sure, we'll get to the game last night as well here in a few minutes. But he had another good game last night. So I think it's 10 out of 13 games he scored in double figures, which the first, 39 games or however many games in his career to begin the career, he only scored in double figures once. And he's done it 10 out of 13 games now. So he's really become that, kind of second punch that Liberty has to go alongside Darius. And you mentioned there Kyle Rode as well. He played well. He struggled some last night, but I think that's going to be the key to Liberty coming down the stretch here is we know what Darius can do. But having somebody else, and I think Shiloh's kind of stepped into that second guy role. And then if we can get a third guy to be consistent, it's been Keegan at times. It's been, Kyle a game or two. If we can get a consistent third scorer, maybe a Brody Peebles, then this team will take that next step, I believe.
Yeah, it's hard to believe the growth of Shiloh offensively from where he was as a freshman to now. I mean, he's scoring 15 points, and it feels like a regular thing. Like if he would have done that even last year, it would have been like, oh wow, Shiloh had 15 points, and now it's like you almost expected him to be that second scoring option, as kind of you said, Jon. And yeah, I just so impressed with his development. Well, you got any other thoughts on this before we move on?
No, just it seems like Liberty always has a tough time when they play in the state of Florida, and it was just good to have kind of a wide margin of victory.
Real quick before you guys move on, I see a comment there from Chad about Stetson. They got smacked by Kennesaw last night, but one thing about that is Stetson, Rob Perry's been out their last 2 games, and they've since lost, the last couple games. So, he's first team all conference type performer. So without him going against, Kennesaw, Liberty will see them later this week. But, don't read too much into that. Same thing. I mean, Kennesaw ran all over FGCU, but that's just kind of a one night type deal. So, Stetson was out Rob Perry after playing Liberty. So, they're a different team without him. That's like Liberty playing without Darius McGhee, just about.
Yeah, we'll get into a little bit more of the ASUN later on. But Stetson's one of those teams that I don't think they're very good, but you don't want to play them in come tournament time. They're just a team you want to avoid. And I don't know. I'm intrigued by Kennesaw. I'm not going to jump all in on, hey, Kennesaw's a legit contender yet. We'll find out hopefully Tuesday. Is the snowmageddon? That's not going to impact the game on Tuesday, is it, John?
Well, we'll see. I think Lynchburg got about 6 or 7 inches, and it's still coming down out there right now. So the key will be Jacksonville. Can they get up here? Supposed to take a bus up on Monday. Hopefully they've got the main roads cleared off and they can get in here. But I would hate to have that game, called off. Yeah,
definitely. That would be it's the second time with Kennesaw, and it's you want to get a couple games in with them, just in case you do have to play them in the tournament. Liberty's a much better team the more times they face someone, as we saw last year with the Friday-Saturday. They were a totally different team in Saturday versus Friday. You give Richie two looks at a team, I'm going to really, really like my chances. So I don't want any of these games canceled and not have 2 looks on a team that you're supposed to play twice that's in your division. All right, let's move on to the next game here. So Liberty, North Florida. This was a pretty ugly game, to be honest. I mean, not ugly in the terms of Liberty dominated this game from start to finish. They never trailed. It was nice, with some of the troubles that Liberty had with North Florida the first couple of years, just to dominate them. I really think North Florida is a really, really bad team. I know they were missing a guy. Literally every team is going to be missing a guy this year. But yeah, Shiloh was insane in this one. And the stat that jumps out to me is 10 of 11 from the free throw line. That for your big guy, to step up and do that, because he's going to draw a lot of fouls just with kind of the style that he plays and the reckless, around the rim. And this was the first game without Blake Preston, which it didn't seem like it really was a big deal in this one, but I really think it was a big deal in the game yesterday. We'll talk about that in a second. Well, what was your thoughts on this win over North Florida?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was a little, I don't know, sloppy, I guess, at times. It was a little bit like that Stetson game as far as the margin of victory. I thought Shiloh, we know what he does offensively, in the development he's taken, the step forward he's taken, but his defense is really good too. And he's kind of I know Vinzan is the guy that's going to get a lot of the defensive attention, and Warfield as well. I think Shiloh is a little bit underrated with that. I mean, I'm just looking at the stats, and there's not a lot that stands out, but just if my memory serves correctly, just watching that game, he really forced a lot of people to change their shots and change directions. And so he just overall development was kind of on display in this game. Carter Hendrickson, he feels like he's been in North Florida forever. He's kind of like a Sajula at Lipscomb, the guy's never going to leave. But they held him in check pretty good. I mean, he's kind of a 3-point threat at times.
Yeah, and Shiloh, he had the main defensive cover there on Hendrickson most of the night, yep. and Carter couldn't make a shot. But yeah, you're exactly right. Shiloh, that's his best game he's played at Liberty today. He was getting it done on both ends of the floor. But that was a really game. Being at the game is the first game back at home in the new semester with students on campus. And it just really felt like, the entire arena kind of felt lethargic, like they were sleepwalking through the game. And it seemed like at times the team was doing the same thing. And yeah, they turned it on the right time. And I don't have the box score in front of me, but they had like 17 turnovers that night. So kind of a sloppy game. But, the team, the arena, the energy just wasn't quite there. Hopefully that changes here. And maybe it had something to do with the opponent, Liberty being like a 13-point favorite. But all in all, it was, it's a win. Move on, keep on moving. You need some ugly wins in conference play and some wins when you don't play well to get to hopefully a fourth straight regular season and tournament title.
Yeah, I love ugly 15-point wins. Those are the those are the best. But yeah, it felt like Liberty could have won this game by 30 if they would have really been. And I'm not questioning their effort or anything, but if they would have, been pedal to the floor the whole game, maybe the crowd's a little more into it. Maybe they could have got that up to 30. But if this Kennesaw State game does happen on Tuesday, we'll talk about them more in a second. But that's a game, hey, you're gonna need a crowd for, because Kennesaw's coming in with a lot of, I hate the momentum word, but they are coming in with a lot of momentum in this game. So yeah, I hope that Liberty Arena is ready for that. Any other thoughts on this game, fellas? No? Okay. All right. Then the game yesterday, it was probably one of the all-time games in Liberty history. It was a thrilling game. Incredibly disappointed with how little national attention it's got, which I'm not going to go on a rant. I could talk about that for an hour. But Darius McGhee, 48 points, and it wasn't like he worked so hard for every single one of those 48 points. I'm going to pass it to you guys. Well, what was your thoughts on this one?
It's almost a shame that we only beat them by 3 points. Like, what if Darius had COVID? That might be a disaster for us. You don't know if anybody else is going to step up as a second scorer. But there's nothing else for me to talk about except for the way Darius played. I woke up this morning and I told my wife, Darius scored 48 last night, and she had no idea what I was talking about, but it was just awesome.
It was the exact same thing that I did this morning, and my wife was like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "All right, I got to do a podcast tomorrow to talk through this and my emotions on this."
Yeah, I was down in the basement watching the game, and I came up afterwards. And sometimes my daughters will watch it with me, but they were too cool for school last night. But I came up after the game. I was like, Darius McGhee just scored 48 points, and my youngest daughter looks at me like, "Huh?" She's like, "He scored all the points. How many did the team score?" And I was like, I said he scored all the points. Don't ask another question. But yeah, it was crazy. I was texting people saying Darius scored 48 last night, and it was a lot of fun. But one of the crazy things, Darius, I watched the game over this morning. Talk about the snow, stuck in the house today, not able to do much. So I watched the game over this morning, and then Nick, you put together that awesome 8 or 9 minute video of all of his buckets last night. And I watched that again. So I watched a lot of the game and seen all of McGee's points multiple times. But the crazy thing is he scored 9 points before the first media timeout, and then he didn't score again for the next 13 plus minutes in the first half. So he went 13 minutes scoreless and still ended up with 48 points. Could you imagine if he could have been Darius McGhee in those 13 minutes? Because he scored, you may remember, he got, he was trying to go and dunk over top of Kevin Samuel, their 6'11" guy, right at the end, and got fouled with less than 30 seconds left and made those 2 free throws. And then to start the second half, he scored 13 straight points. So Darius scored 15 straight points all in all. And, man, what a crazy performance. 37 points in the second half. That's unheard of. Some guys can go 3 games, 4 games, even all conference performers without scoring 37 points over a course of a couple games, but he did it in one half. It was just amazing. And he was doing it, from 3-pointers from out of the screen to 3-pointers contested over top of Samuel, the 6'11" kid, to crazy reverse layups where he's flipping it up over his shoulder to pull up jumpers, to float. I mean, he was doing everything, and talk about his free throws. He also made all 8 of his free throws. So the only thing I'm mad about Darius McGhee's performance is at the end, he didn't like fall into one of the defenders with 1.7 seconds left to get that foul so he could go and get to the line for 2 shots to get to 50. But just an unreal performance from Darius. You can't really even put it into words how great of a performance that was by him.
Yeah, at the end of the game, that's the worst of Ken Pom because Florida Gulf Coast knew they weren't going to win the game, didn't want to give away 2 more points and hurt their metrics, and so they didn't foul. And yeah, he would have got to 50. So yeah, I was disappointed with that. But the one of the things that stuck out to me was 2 of those baskets late were. I mean, let's remember this was a back and forth game at the end. Like these were shots like to win the game. Like Florida Gulf Coast had the lead with like a minute left. And there was 2 shots where Florida Gulf Coast came down, hit a big 3. Florida Gulf Coast came down, made a big layup, and like the crowd was going wild. And then Darius just came like right back. Like we're not even talking like the Liberty Burn offense where they hold like he just came right down, boom, and just broke their hearts. Which I don't know what that sign was. It was really weird and very
or something. Yeah,
very poorly constructed, but. I hope those young men and ladies.
I actually was asking around today what exactly that sign was. What did it say? McGhee is not a P or something like that. Apparently, it means he's not good. It's one of the new sayings the kids have today. We're all too old to know what that's all about, but that's apparently what it means. But yeah, they obviously were wrong with that.
Yeah, they did, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe if Darius would have got to 50, as Chad says here in the chat, maybe it would have got some attention nationally, which I'm so bitter on that, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, just man, what a win. I do want to talk about Blake Preston not being in this game because I felt like this was the game that it really showed, and I feel like it also kind of hurt a B a little bit, who's played really, really well, but he really struggled in this game yesterday, kind of having to play more of the 5, or you need to play some with Shiloh, but he just had to, carry more of that rebounding load. And then, Samuel, obviously you saw Liberty's strategy at the end, which was smart to foul him. They could have done that a lot earlier if they would have had more bodies that they could have rotated in. They couldn't hack him early in the game because, you only have two big guys and one of them's not really a big guy. I don't know. Do you guys really feel like Blake Preston's absence was really missed in this one yesterday?
Yeah, that guy was extremely tall. Like nobody else really had a body to put on him. Blake's the only guy that maybe had a chance to do something against him when he got down low. So yeah, I was kind of feeling the same way. Like it hurt. And once they fouled him that first time and he missed all the free throws, I was kind of, my thinking was along the lines of yours, like just keep fouling this guy, put somebody in that can just grab him immediately. And B started doing that at the very end until they kind of figured out what was happening.
They even stuck road on him to take a foul.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. That's kind of what I was going to say, and not taking anything away from Blake Preston. We know what he can do. He's capable of having great games. But at the very least, that's 5 more fouls you could have thrown at Samuel, put him on the line or take those fouls. Because that was one of the things Rode ended up having a little bit of foul trouble throughout the game. And then same thing, I think Shiloh had a few fouls late. But yeah, it was, at the very least to have 5 more fouls for him would have been good.
Shout out to Paul Nazigan and Tim Scarborough for watching our show. Will, what is this? Like 2 of the, and honestly, I mean, 2 of the best color analysts. Liberty has been so blessed with. If you watched that broadcast last night, like Liberty's
that was rough.
TV and radio coverage throughout the years, has just been so good. And it's, even during some of the lean years for the basketball program, at least you always, could tune in and watch a quality broadcast. So thanks guys for watching. Really do appreciate that.
Yeah, just real quick, when I feel like I don't have anything to contribute to this, I just listen to Scar and Naz on their podcast and repeat what they say. Because they're way smarter than I am as just a cat as a fan. And then also the way that production was, and Nick, honestly, the way that you run this stream and the way you put videos together and the way you do the podcast, pretty sure you could be the vice president of their production department at Florida Gulf Coast.
They had a rough night, and they also I was watching back, and they messed up. They missed an assist. They gave an assist to Darius that should have gone to Kyle Road. Like they had a rough night all around. But you know what? Hey,
now
bless their hearts.
The play-by-play guy, he was so excited for Darius. I didn't mind that. Like, I thought he did a pretty good job, but yeah, just overall, just not knowing what the shot clock is all night and not knowing what the score is, if it's accurate or not. That was maybe the worst of ASUN that I've seen. I mean, that was a Flow Hoops worthy production.
Yeah, the play-by-play guy wasn't bad. He did a solid job, especially watching. You know, when I put that clip together, he was really excited about the performance and did a good job. The color analyst, he struggled a bit, but hey, to each their own. Let's talk about Darius, King Darius. This is a shout out to Malik Willis for Heisman for throwing us this graphic, because I can't do a crown on. I'm not that talented. I can only do like things just thrown together, not like two graphics together. But let's talk about it. Coming into the year, my thought was Caleb Holmesley's the GOAT, and no one else is close. I don't know. I'm Darius is right there now for me. Just what he did against Stanford, honestly, might have been more impressive than last night. I mean, just with their size. But to do this twice in 1 year, and I'm not sure he's not going to do it again. What's your guys' thoughts? How is Darius? Where is he at in this conversation?
It's hard not to argue that he's not the GOAT. We're all kind of products of our times at some point. So my heart will always be with Larry Blair as the greatest of all time to wear a Liberty uniform. I know you're judging me right now, Nick. That's okay. But, man, Darius is by far the most fun player to watch, maybe in Liberty history.
He might be the most fun player in college basketball right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we could sit here and debate. Everybody's going to have their own opinion of who the GOAT is, and a lot of it's probably dictated on when you went to school and when you first became a Liberty fan, because always the first is always the greatest, right? And I think we were all in school pretty much the same time. I was a huge Larry Blair fan. Man, I love me some Larry Blair, and nobody could tell me that anybody was better than Larry Blair for a long time. But and Darius McGhee and Larry Blair are very similar type players, but there's really no comparison in my mind anymore. Darius McGhee has far surpassed Blair. I mean, it's not, you can't even compare the two anymore. Yes, Larry Blair has more points and will end up with more points than McGhee, but that was because Blair was given the ultimate green light as a freshman for an entire career, and Darius has only seen that really the last year and a half. I mean, he didn't have it his entire junior year. It was kind of the last half of last season that he kind of got that green light. But, some of the guys that I think are in that discussion, yeah, Caleb Holmesley certainly belongs. No doubt about that. You can make a case for him. I think McGhee is right there in that discussion as well. Bailey Alston's another guy. I think Bailey probably has a better argument, in my opinion, to be maybe the greatest scorer in Liberty basketball history. And I think Darius is etching up there against him there. And then Peter Aluma, some of the things he did. Those are probably the top four, in my opinion, that each have a debate. But I will say this: none of those players I just mentioned have 3 rings. None of those players I just mentioned have won multiple ASUN Player of the Year or Conference Player of the Year awards. None of them are the Liberty 3-point king. Darius has far surpassed Ryan Kimwright's number. He might end up doubling it up. Darius, if he ends up getting a player of the year this year, getting a 4th ring, and these are a lot of ifs, and win a conference tournament game, it's over. Like, you can't even say there's nothing Caleb Holmesley did that has one-upped to Darius McGhee. There's nothing Peter Luma did to one-up Darius McGhee. Go down the line. Nobody at that point would have done as much as Darius McGhee has done for Liberty basketball. His resume would speak for itself, but there's still a lot of basketball to be played. It's only halfway through his senior season, so we'll see what happens. But ASUN Player of the Year, ASUN Tournament MVP, leading his team, 3 straight. I mean, he doesn't even know how to lose in a conference tournament. He's undefeated in a conference tournament. Think about that. That's just unreal. If he gets to 12-0 and 4 straight, it's done.
And we don't know that he's not coming back. I mean, there is that possibility, correct?
Oh, yeah, he could come back. But if he does get to that 4 straight and 12-0, he's got to pack it up, right? Be like Brett Favre and walk off into the sunset at the top. I mean, you can't do any better. I mean, yeah, 5 for 5, but hey,
No, John, he does not have to back it up. Darius, if you are watching, which I'm sure you're not,
please.
You do not have to back it up. We will do whatever, sir.
I bought 2 of your T-shirts, please.
But 2 of your T-shirts. Yeah, I mean, it's – and people forget, he scored 15 points in the NCAA tournament against Virginia Tech. And Liberty was at the lead at halftime of that game, was in that game. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's the only thing that Holmesley scored 30 points against Mississippi State in the NCAA tournament. And I know it's a team game. It's a one game. And I'm very big on not making too big a deal out of one-offs and things like that. But that's just the one thing that it's really hard. But yeah, I mean, that's wild that you brought that up, John, about he's never lost a conference tournament game. I can't even believe that's true. And then I'm like, that's true. I mean, that's just insane. But yeah, it's awesome that this 5'8", 5'9" kid is even in that conversation. And Darius, if he's had a target on his back already, the rest of conference play, it's going to get really tough for him. So he is going to need guys to step up around him. But I mean, I think he's shown to this point, he can answer that bell. So yeah, it's just been fun to watch. Any other thoughts on Darius?
Yeah, I want to rephrase my opinion since Scar has given me some grief in the comments. And in light of John's wisdom, my favorite player will always be Larry Blair. That's who I was raised in my Liberty fandom on. In my opinion, Caleb is on the Mount Rushmore of Liberty players because of that performance against Mississippi State. But then I will say Darius is, in my opinion, the fast track to the GOAT, greatest of all time on that one.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. All right. Let's talk about where we stand in conference play. Here's the standings. Liberty 3-0, Jacksonville 3-0 in the East, carrying the way. Kennesaw State's 2-0. In the West, Jacksonville's 3-0, Bellarmine 3-0. So 5 undefeated teams, which seems crazy. We've had a very top heavy, bottom heavy so far. And then here's where they stand in the net and the Ken Palm. And if you're listening on the podcast, I'm sorry. I'll try to say as much as I can, but not also water down the YouTube version of this. But I think, my personal opinion, I think there's 3 tiers right now in the ASUN. I think Liberty and Jacksonville State are in their own tier. I think Kennesaw, Jacksonville, Bellarmine are in that second tier. Florida Gulf Coast and Eastern Kentucky, I feel like maybe are there. And then I kind of feel like maybe even Lipscomb and North Alabama. And then I definitely feel like Stetson, North Florida, and Central Arkansas are in their own bottom tier. What do you guys think about so far with ASUN play and where things stand?
Boy, definitely. Kennesaw and Eastern Kentucky have flipped expectations, I think, from where I had them. Kennesaw has played, a fairly similar out of conference schedule than what we have, as we have. They've played pretty close to Iowa State and Creighton. And then, of course, they played their share of non-D1 teams as well. And then, they had a decent win at Florida Gulf Coast. I mean, we only beat them with 3 with, one guy dropping 48 points. So, if that game goes on, I think it'll be interesting. I think we'll win for sure, but I think it'll really show us kind of, where we are.
Yeah, I think this is a big week for Liberty. Tuesday night playing Jacksonville up here at Liberty Arena. Hopefully the game gets in. They're 3-0. I mean, we're not talking about Jacksonville. They've got an entirely new team. I believe 10 of their 14 players weren't even on the team last year, and they got a brand new head coach from Florida. A lot of transfers that are good. They're number 1 in the country in scoring defense right now. So I'm not too sure about Jacksonville right now. I think we'll learn a lot about them Tuesday night, assuming that game gets played. Kennesaw is another one. I think they're kind of in the same boat right now in my mind as Jacksonville is. Kennesaw's got a lot of young talent. They've kind of been building the last couple of years. They got 2 blowout wins, but let's see what happens when they play Liberty. Let's see where they stack up with this team. The top dog in the ASUN the last 3 years. But I think they do have a chance to contend and be in the top half. Jacksonville State, I agree with you, Nick. They're up in there at the top. Eastern Kentucky, I don't know. I know they had some COVID issues, but now they're 0-4 in conference play. I mean, I don't know if they can dig out of that as far as the regular season's concerned. Of course, once you get in tournament play, anything can happen. They had some guys out with COVID issues, but I think they're back to full strength now. So we'll see if they can start turning it around. But one team that I did it all last year, and I started off this year doing the same thing, but I've quickly changed my tune, is Bellarmine. Like, it's so easy to look at these guys like it's a bunch of D2 players. They look like the 3 of us out there on the court. It's nothing special when you look at them, but they keep winning. You keep looking up and, oh, look, Bellarmine won again tonight. And I've even been pulling for them to win some of these games, thinking it would help us in the regular season race, but they're always there. They got a great system, very fundamentally sound. So don't count out Bellarmine, especially when you look at this, regular season run that Liberty's trying to get to a 4th straight. But, I'm really looking forward to the 2 games this week. Then you get Central Arkansas Saturday, so it's technically 3. But I'm really looking forward to Jacksonville and Kennesaw, seeing what those teams really have, because I think there are a lot of question marks about them right now.
Yeah, and Steven asked a question earlier, and I wanted to make sure we got to it kind of when we got into this discussion, but about Kennesaw. And yeah, I mean, I've watched the last 2 games, and I've been very impressed. I think they won their 2 ASUN games by like 52 combined points. So they seem like they've definitely turned it around. And I'm sorry, Liberty's supposed to play Kennesaw on Thursday. They play 3 times this week. We're going to get to the schedule here in a minute. But Jacksonville's on Tuesday. Jacksonville's a little weird to me, just because they don't have a top 200 win yet. I mean, they've played a really, really bad schedule. They did play competitively against some of the like Minnesota and a couple other Power 5 schools. So yeah, I'll be interested to see. I wouldn't be shocked if Liberty beats Jacksonville pretty good and kind of brings them back to earth. And I think Kennesaw maybe will be the tougher one, because that one is on the road. But yeah, Bellarmine, John, I'm glad you brought them up. They beat Central Arkansas by like 22 points, and they beat Lipscomb pretty good yesterday. And they're a team that doesn't really have a lot of big bodies, and we're still able to find a way to beat Asajala. So yeah, it's a competitive league this year. I definitely think Liberty and Jacksonville State are ahead of everyone else, but I think that race for that next is a lot tighter than we thought. And then I have here if you're watching the ASUN tournament as if it started today. Now, I didn't go through all the tiebreakers. I just went in order, and then I did net as the tiebreaker since there's, so many right now. But Eastern Kentucky, that is a team I would not want to see as like a 6 or 7 seed kind of getting thrown in, and having to play them because they were picked second for a reason. They definitely have a ton of talent. So, I mean, it's good that Eastern Kentucky's probably, well, I mean, they're 0-5, like they're out of the race for the number 1 seed. That's good for Liberty, but it might not be good if you have to play them in the quarterfinals. That's not a team you want to match up with.
Yeah, I agree with you. You mentioned Stetson earlier, not wanting to play them in the conference tournament. I swear Liberty's played them all 3 years in the conference tournament, maybe in the semifinals all 3 years. I could be wrong on that, but again, I don't want to play them. That's the first thing that jumped out when I looked at this. I was like, man, I don't want to have to play Stetson in the first round again. Again, it's a game Liberty should win, but they always make those games ugly and they come down to the end, it seems like. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see with this new format they got this year, how things shake out.
Yeah, and the campus sites hosting the games, huge advantage for Liberty. Be the first time we've had, those kinds of meaningful conference tournament games at the new arena. So I don't care who we play, Flames by 90.
There you go. Yeah, so it all comes down to the conference tournament, but getting the number 1 seed is huge. So let's look at the points leaders and the KenPom offensive rating. So Darius McGhee obviously leading the way at 22.8 points per game. It was like at 21, and he went up like a whole point since I did this last, and like that's ridiculous. And then like we've talked about Shiloh at 10.1 points per game. He's also the leader right now in the KenPom offensive rating. He's been the most efficient player offensively, so he's been doing well. Vin Zant, he really had a strong game yesterday on the defensive end. Had a key dunk late in the game. Had a nice cut to the rim. Will, what's your overall thoughts on kind of the personnel for the Flames right now?
Yeah, just the KenPom offensive rating. You, in my mind, I guess I'm thinking more of just in terms of points made and all that. But I see Darius at 4th, and I'm like, what? Something's wrong there. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I mean, just look at who's number 1 though. Shiloh. He's the kind of guy that we both were like, hey, he's the guy to watch. This year, and as he takes a step in his development. I think Brody Peebles, the older he gets, like he's going to turn into that scoring threat, and you kind of think his rating is going to rise a little bit.
Yeah, one caveat on Darius why he's 4th. He was like 8th when I did this like 2 weeks ago. He's been shooting up. Darius has shot the most percentage of shots of any player of any team in the country. So of their percentage of shots for the team, he has the most of anyone. So when you shoot that much, your offensive rating is going to be down just because of the volume that you're in.
Yeah, shoot more shots, you miss more shots.
The guy that the second is below 100, and 100's the average. So him at 105.5, that's a good number. If Shiloh Robinson was shooting 30 times a game, his offensive rating would not be 120. But for what he's doing, he's been very, very efficient, and that's why he's.
Oh yeah, and when Shiloh spots up from 3. I mean, he drains it, so that makes it go up too. He's not shooting a lot. He's not shooting as many as Darius is, but he's getting good looks and hitting his open looks.
I think that's the biggest growth we've seen in Shiloh's game. I mentioned it, somewhere, maybe on our podcast at See Red this summer was, if I was Shiloh Robinson, I'd be in the gym all day, every day, just shooting hundreds of 3-pointers. Because if he could take that next step on offense, he could become an all-conference performer. And we've seen that happen this year. And you're exactly right, Will. Like he's, the game last night, there was 2 or 3 different occasions he was wide open behind the arc. Nice ball movement by Liberty, and they got it around to him. And I felt confident with him taking it, and he drained them. He didn't even miss a shot last night. And, because of Darius, we don't even talk about Shiloh last night, but Shiloh had a great game. And those 13 minutes I talked about that Darius went scoreless, it was Shiloh that stepped up and scored. I don't remember, maybe 11 or 13 points. He was leading the team in scoring at halftime. So Shiloh, I think that, that's one of the biggest things. One of the biggest takeaways there is his 3-point shooting and how he can make those. And he's a much more comfortable and confident player is probably the better word on offense. Like when he gets the ball and he's in a scoring zone, he doesn't shy away from that. Where the last couple of years he was quick to pass out, but now he's attacking the basket. I mean, we saw it in the open court there when he got the ball just past midcourt. I think it was Darius or someone got a steal and threw it ahead to him, and it was him and Samuel one-on-one. He took it right at him and flushed it, which I was thinking, man, he's probably going to dribble this one out or something. But it's been huge to see that, and he could be an all-conference performer this year, and assuming Darius doesn't come back next year, I mean that's a guy Liberty's going to be counting on next year. You got to fill in 22 points a game. Who can make up that lost production. I think Shiloh averaging 10. I mean, he could get up to 12 or 14 next year.
Yeah, and if he improves on that three ball, he's going to make a lot more money too, in his future, because that's a heck of a skill set. And he does seem to be shooting it with a lot more confidence as well. And so I'm sure he is working on it. You just don't, magically get that confidence overnight. This is the rotation over the last 5 games. I know, Will, we were talking about it earlier in the year. We're like, oh, wow, we have all these players and the rotation was so big. And who was it? It was our Zach. Zach talked to us about, how the rotate, or no, it was Chad, talked about the rotations short as we get into conference play. And it is absolutely shrunk. And some of it's been Preston out, but even still, I mean, Liberty's down to about 8-9 guys they're playing on a given night, depending on if Warfield gets some minutes. John, I'll start with you. What's your thoughts on kind of the current depth chart and the rotation that they're playing right now?
Well, one thing, if you go back and look in previous years, McKay has always whittled his rotation down to 8 guys. There's never been more than an 8-man rotation once you got into the meat of conference play and into the postseason. So I was thinking, all during non-conference and late, just before the season started, preseason action, who are going to be those 8 guys. And you could kind of figure out who most of them were going to be, but it was like, okay, who's going to slide in as 7th or 8th guy? And to be honest, it seems like we might have 9 this year. I don't know who's going to end up getting cut out. I mean, it could be Warfield. He might be the odd man out when Blake comes back into it. But, and the other thing with McKay is, remember his first stint, he was always, I mean, he would start 5 guards, and I don't know if he did it just to make it funny. He's like, oh, look, watch this lineup. But he didn't shy away from that. And even at the beginning of his tenure here, the second go around, I mean, remember Ryan Kimwright? He played the 4 like all the time. And I mean, Kimwright was more of a 2 or a 3 man. But that's not the case anymore. I mean, McKay's been more apt to go to 3 bigs than to go to 3 or 4 guards. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Obviously, Darius is going to get the beef of the minutes, and Shiloh and Kyle Rode too. I mean, we don't talk about him a lot because maybe his stats aren't always up there, but he is the leader of the team. Vocally on the court and in the huddles and things like that. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that rotation continues to whittle down, and will McKay go back to having just 8 in that rotation down the crunch time?
Yeah, Kyle Rhodes leading the team in assists right now, and I think his play and his really improvement since the start of the year, I would say that probably has a lot to do with Liberty not playing a true point guard, because Rhodes is essentially your point guard, and we've seen a B taking the ball up the floor some as well, but it does seem like Moore's kind of gotten out of the rotation completely. Which is a shame for him because he did, have to burn the red shirt. But it was also kind of one of those situations where Liberty was they were having a hard time getting the ball up the floor. And, you don't want to mess around, too long into the season with that. And I have a feeling he'll probably get some minutes as the year goes on. And it's nice to have that option. If you do have some guys getting foul trouble, at least you can bring in a guy that you feel comfortable, handling the ball. He's certainly, shown a strong ability for that. Will, what's your thoughts kind of on the rotation, how it's kind of settled in?
Yeah, I was just going to comment on, without a true point guard, Kyle Rode, he has, such a great ability to bring the ball up the court. It's hard to imagine Van Zandt going out with his defense. And, then you're kind of left between Peebles, but, he's kind of proved that he can be a good scorer. He's not afraid to take it to the to the paint and to either find the open guy or just take it up himself. So you're kind of really just left with Warfield or maybe even McDowell. But you kind of think with McDowell's experience in the system, Warfield, I think he's going to turn into a great defender. I don't know if he's there yet, but I mean, I think he can definitely do that. He hustles so hard. Like it seems like every play, every possession, he is diving on the floor, doing something like that. So you kind of think though he might be the odd man out with Keegan. Being a good shooter, he could be a little hit or miss at times, but just his experience in the pack line, it would be hard to take him out.
I think the biggest thing with Warfield is, I agree exactly with you. He's a wonderful defender. I think he could end up being one of the team's top defenders. Obviously with Van Zandt, he's already kind of there, but as his career develops, Warfield, that is. But he's really, and no offense to him, but he's really, a bit of a liability on offense at this point in his career. I mean, we saw it a couple of times last night against FGCU that he'd get the ball and he wasn't looking to attack. He wanted to pass the ball back out to someone else, and that's fine. I mean, he knows his role, but speaking about the rotation, I think because of that, he might get bumped down a spot or two, and even a DJ Moore, who's a solid defender as a true freshman, he's not like that on offense. He's willing to drive into the paint, take a shot as shot clock's going down. So I think that could work against Warfield coming down the stretch.
Contrary to popular opinion, Liberty is an offensive team. I know that because of the pack line and the pace they play, they get known as this great defensive team, which they're a good defensive team for like the league they play in. But Liberty the last 3 years has had much better offensive efficiency numbers than defense. So they have to score to win the games. That's why they're winning so many games. So I mean, I think that Warfield, he's fine, but if you have him and maybe Rode on the floor at the same time, kind of limits you offensively. I think Peebles, he's going to have a couple of these just big games. I could see him in the ASUN tournament popping 25 or something like that. But Van Zandt, when he starts hitting that three, my goodness, he's going to take off because every other part of his game is just so polished for a freshman, and you just it jumps through the screen at you. I'm so excited about Van Zandt. Just his ability is remarkable. We did get a question here I want to get to. It's from Sam. Can we talk about Darius almost ending Samuel's career with that dunk? I can't even believe he tried that, and that's what the announcer said too. What just happened? I think he almost got the foul call just because he did that. They were like, yeah, I'm calling a foul. I can't not. I can't believe this young man just did that.
It was the greatest almost dunk in Liberty history, for sure.
Could you imagine if he was able to finish that 5'9" guy going up against a 6'11" guy in the paint, right in his face? Man, that probably would have gotten more attention nationally than Darius scoring 48 would have. And well, I guess he made the free throws anyway, so it wouldn't have gotten him to 50. But could you imagine if he finished that, man?
I would want an outline of that on a T-shirt.
Just maybe rename the Vine Center, the house that, I don't know, something about that, and have a big poster as you walk in. That was one of the most courageous failed dunk attempts I've ever seen. But before we get out of here tonight, let's look at the upcoming schedule. Jacksonville on Tuesday. It is a three game week this week, so a big week for Liberty. Jacksonville Tuesday, Kennesaw Thursday. I'm really excited about that. And then they are on the road on Saturday against Central Arkansas. Their computer numbers are really bad, but it is a road game, and they have had a couple nice performances so far. So it'll be interesting to see them, and always nice to see another venue. I haven't listened to a game with them with their announcers, but I'm always excited to hear new ASUN announcers.
And they got that gray court, if you may remember. So sometimes when you tune into a game, which I've done a couple so far this year, you sit there and think, wait, is my TV in black and white right now? But yeah, they got that gray court there, so that'll be interesting.
it's like gray and white, but then they have like that giant purple in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So like it's like, oh, it's in black and white. Oh, whoa, wow, it's not. It's purple. And then we got North Alabama, and then next Saturday after next, the big game against Jacksonville State. I hope Liberty Arena is packed and energetic. That should be treated like twice as high as Missouri, because they are literally twice as good as Missouri in the numbers. They are a really, really good team, and I'm so excited about that. Any thoughts on the upcoming schedule, Will?
Yeah, somebody said Chad said is Eastern Kentucky the trap game. In my mind, I know they're really bad, but Central Arkansas is the trap game. Just because they're not a familiar opponent to us, and then they know how good Jacksonville has been, and they know how good Kennesaw State has been, and then it's almost like a letdown to go to UCA and play that game. So in my mind, that's a trap game. That's the Manhattan on the schedule.
That's actually a really good point you brought up. Well, I hadn't thought about that before, but yeah, I mean, and you also got the division aspect to it as well, right? Because Jacksonville and Kennesaw State, they're both currently undefeated, and they're in that East Division with Liberty. And, so Liberty will obviously be geared up and amped up for those two games. And, if Liberty is able to come out unscathed, which I won't be easy, and get to 5-0 going to UCA on the road, I mean, that's a decent flight, not a short trip. And, it could be a bit of a letdown. Before you get a short break there after that game before playing the following Thursday. But yeah, I agree, Nick. When I saw the schedule early in the year, Missouri jumped out obviously at home, but Jacksonville State has a chance to be like a ASUN tournament preview. And we're fortunate as Liberty fans that it's at Liberty Arena, and because we're only playing them one time in the regular season this year. So, and that could come down huge for that number one seed in home court. Both teams currently undefeated, and we'll see how many losses either one gets. I don't think there'll be many. So if you're able to get one on them and get that tiebreaker against them head to head, then you're definitely got a leg up for that one seed.
Yeah, I could absolutely see the two teams end up tied, and the tiebreaker being the difference in that. Eastern Kentucky is on the road on February 5th, so that is definitely a trap game on the road. They might be 2-7 or something and have a really bad record, but we know they're a lot better than whatever their record is.
That'll actually be a tough trip too. I know we're looking a few weeks ahead, but you got Eastern Kentucky and Bellarmine like back to back, like 2 nights apart or something like that on a road trip. So I think it might be the games right after JSU, or maybe there's another one in there, but that'll be a tough swing there too. Those 2 games back to back.
It's Jacksonville State on Saturday at home, and then Thursday and Saturday Bellarmine and Eastern Kentucky, and then they come home for Lipscomb, which has kind of been, I don't think they're very good, but they've been a tough out for Liberty. So yeah, I mean, these next 4 I think are going to be really important to kind of bank up some wins. Liberty's still favored in every game the rest of the year. But one game that stuck out to me is Liberty's only a 2-point favorite on the road against Kennesaw State. Is it that wild? I mean, Liberty's been like a 20-point favorite every time they've played them, it's felt like. But that's how good Kennesaw State's, numbers have shot up after their last 2 dominating performances. So, fun week of basketball. Hopefully we'll, have some more wins to talk about whenever we do this again. Any other thoughts on the schedule or really anything else, fellas?
Kennesaw plays Monday night. I think they're against North Florida on the road. So, if you're sitting around, not much to do before that Monday night football game comes on, you can turn that one on and see how they're doing. Get a quick preview of the Owls coming up on Thursday.
Yeah, ASUN basketball is better than the NFL playoffs every time. At least for me, I'm probably like the only person on the planet that would say that. We did get one more question from Chad, and we got to answer everything that Chad does, because I've never had a guy promote anything I've done like Chad did today. Like, what a dude. I love Chad and all he does for Liberty. What's your confidence in Freya B after yesterday? I'll let you guys take this first, and then I'll finish it up and wrap us up.
Yeah, I still have confidence in Freya B. I mean, probably not his greatest game yesterday. He missed a couple of point-blank shots almost. But I just kind of, we saw like the flashes of what he could do early last year. And then we really didn't see him the rest of the year. He was kind of that odd man left out of the rotation. He's in there this year. And I think in between this year and next year, he's going to kind of take that shallow step. So, yeah, there's still a lot of confidence in a B.
Reverend Wills being nice. Micaiah was awful last night. That's the worst game he's ever played in a Liberty uniform. And I love Micaiah. And I think he's a great player, has a lot of potential. And I think he could start next year. And he has the offensive ability. I think he could be one of those guys that sees a huge jump up in production next year. But yeah, it was a rough night for him. And we'll see what happens when Blake comes back. He's another guy that we could see, his minutes go down a little bit when Blake gets back, because he's not playing above Shiloh and he's not playing above Kyle Rode, who's played inside most of the yeyear. And if Blake steals some of his minutes, he might have a tough time getting off the bench the rest of the year. But I'm still confident in a B as far as the future goes. And next season, I think he would be a key piece to this team.
Yeah, I don't want to make too much out of yesterday. It was a really, really rough game, but with Blake out, he's shifting, his role with the team, and remember, Florida Gulf Coast has one of the best shot blockers in the country, so that also kind of, I think he was, maybe trying to do a little bit too much, playing outside the perimeter. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I wouldn't make too much out of that. If he comes back, if when Blake comes back, he still struggles. And against maybe, a team that doesn't have like that just fluky ASUN players, not a lot of ASUN players that look like that, then maybe I'd be a little bit more concerned, but overall, I don't really have any concerns. Jon, thank you so much for joining us. It was so awesome to have you on the show. Thanks for all you do for Liberty. I feel like I've known you for the last 10 years, even though I haven't known you, but yeah, it was a pleasure. Love all your takes on Liberty. We'll do this again here in the next couple weeks as the season goes on, and hopefully have some more wins to talk about. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to the channel Liberty Classic Games on YouTube, and then we're also the VinesPomcast up on Apple and Spotify. Thanks so much, everyone, for all your questions tonight and for tuning in. It was really, really cool to have so much interaction. Hopefully we can do that again. Until next time, go Flames.